Hurricane Ian makes landfall in southwest Florida.
Within that region, winds were at 150 and unfortunately a storm surge up to 18 feet.
Now the storm is moving across the state, spinning high winds and dumping heavy rains.
Here in Duval County, we remain under a tropical storm warning.
As Ian approaches the first coast, what we can expect.
We do anticipate some major flooding events in northeast Florida.
And how much longer will this storm last? This is First Coast News on your side.
Good evening. Tonight, Ian moving across Florida. It was just downgraded to a Category 1 hurricane.
And Heather, we know right now that more than 2 million customers across the state are without power. So this is how it all started as it made landfall as a Category 4 hurricane in southwest Florida near Cape Coral. Strong winds and heavy rains bringing flooding to the area.
I mean, incredible pictures we're seeing here. You can see winds, no match right here for these palm trees. This is just outside a house there in Sarasota, and scenes like this one playing out all across southern Florida. Palm trees bending from the powerful gusts.
And it didn't take long for the flood waters to arrive in Naples. That's a refrigerator you see there floating in this neighborhood. As the hurricane moved ashore, dozens of cars and trucks were also left submerged. Emergency crews made at least 30 water rescues in the first hours of the storm. And we have a lot to cover tonight.
We sure do. But first, we want to get you right over to Chief Meteorologist Tim Deegan, who has the brand new update from the National Hurricane Center. So, Tim, what is the latest on Ian tonight?
Thank you, Heather and Anthony. It literally just came in. So, first of all, we're still under a hurricane watch. We're not under a hurricane warning. There's been a slight adjustment now off to the right, that is off to the east by about 15 to 30 miles, about 15 miles farther east of Jacksonville, about 30 miles farther east of Georgia. But those miles are beginning to add up. Still looking for it to be a strong tropical storm, now a Category 1, and because of the weakening we've seen with even further confidence, it will become a tropical storm by about sunrise, and then moving onshore as a tropical storm, but that's in South Carolina. We're going to talk more in detail as far as what's causing the weakening and why we think that trend will continue, but we wanted to show you with the satellite picture. Watch the clear eye, and then we completely lose it. That just verifies that weakening that we're seeing. All of this deep color, these are still heavy rains, but another bit of good news. See this line of thunderstorms? This is now actually larger than the thunderstorms around Ian, and this line of thunderstorms developing around a secondary low that is moving away from the Florida Peninsula. So our forecast hasn't changed despite the fact we're under a hurricane watch. These are the numbers you've been seeing. Going to wrap it up for now, and then we'll come back and take a look at our forecast county by county.
All right, Tim, thank you. So here are 3 other things to know tonight. The entire Duval County oceanfront is closed. This includes Neptune Beach, Atlantic Beach, and Jacksonville Beach. Also, parts of Clay, Nassau, and St. Johns County are under evacuation orders right now. And there are already scattered power outages throughout the First Coast. According to FPL and JEA, that adds up to about 350 customers. Across the state of Florida, though, 2 million people right now are without power. And we want to head out now to Jacksonville Beach. On your side's Tristan Hardy has been visiting some neighborhoods out there today. Tristan, tell us where you are in Jacksonville Beach and what you're seeing.
Absolutely. So right now I'm at the Sanctuary neighborhood in Jacksonville Beach, and behind me is the saltwater lake. And neighbors say when it floods, the water can rise as high as up to 7 feet. But this right here is what's giving the neighborhood some relief. This machine is literally pumping water from the lake to the intracoastal waterways. This tank right here holds 250 gallons of fuel, but the machine is pumping 1 million gallons of water a day. It's one of the many tools that's used to reduce flooding in this neighborhood. Now, I talked to one neighbor who says that they've distributed thousands of sandbags, and he built a sand dam around his house. He says after Irma and Hurricane Matthew, he's not taking any chances with Ian.
We've had flooding in the past in this neighborhood, but we've put forth a lot of efforts to prevent it this time.
If you've got sandbags, put them up. If you're in a flood-prone area, just stay off the roads and hunker down, because here we go.
So this machine is going to stay on overnight. Neighbors say that if this machine can hold off the water till Friday, they'll be just fine. We're live in Jacksonville Beach. I'm Tristan Hardy, First Coast News, on your side.
Oh, so glad they have that machine. We'll keep an eye on that neighborhood. Tristan, thank you. We do have a traffic alert for you right now. A road closure to tell you about in the Bay Meadows area due to possible debris due to Hurricane Ian. So you can see that shopping center sign right there. And you notice how it's leaning? This is a live look on Bay Meadows Road going eastbound between Phillips and Old Kings Road. The Jacksonville Sheriff's Office tells us it's not clear when the road will be cleared. We want to check in now with meteorologist Michaela Lucero with the storm's impact that we're expecting here on Duval County. Michaela?
Hey, Heather, thank you. And here is some good news. We are under our first high tide, and this is the first one that we were pretty worried about. And the good news is, we're just talking with Tristan, we saw it, the water is not as high as we were initially expecting. So that's some good news there. Here's what we're expecting for the rest of the day today. Rainfall rates between about 6 to 12 inches. Wouldn't be surprised if we lower that just a little bit as that rain continues to push through as a pretty light rate as it's coming. Water level rise up to about 4 feet. And then winds, sustained winds 25 to 40 miles per hour, but the wind gusts could be anywhere between about 60 to 65 miles per hour. We had some models saying close to 80. I don't think we'll quite get there, but still very gusty conditions expected throughout the day on Thursday across Duval County.
Michaela, thank you. Let's head south now to St. Johns County. Our Jessica Clark is in St. Augustine tonight. Jess, what are you seeing out there?
Well, it is certainly windy, and the rain is really starting to come down. I'm right on the bayfront here where I'm standing on the sidewalk, and it is already underwater. If you go carefully across the street, you can see the bayfront and the water in the bay very, very choppy and even overtopping some of the seawall here. That has water now on half of the road. So there's a 2-lane road here on Avenida Menendez, and half of each side is inundated with water right now. You know what? In the middle of all this, there was a wedding taking place. I kid you not. We found there was a wedding taking place actually in the hotel where we're staying. The man and woman said they had been planning this for 2 years. Found out yesterday their venue in St. Augustine had to cancel on them. But this other hotel, it's the Hilton on the Bayfront, said, we'll let you have a wedding here. Let's look at this.
Everyone's out of state. Everyone's grounded. Nobody can fly out. So, you know, we're here.
I hear that it's lucky to have rain on your wedding day.
That's what they say. But, I mean, we have, you know, we got everything we ever wanted. So I got no complaints.
So they are certainly very, very happy. But I tell you what, they've got some good friends, right? They come from all over the country, even during a hurricane. But, you know, this is what we're watching. We are closing in on high tide here in St. Augustine. This has been expected. The city manager urging people to take notice of that evacuation order in place. That is for the entire city limits of St. Augustine and also the coastal areas. He believes that this is going to get worse than expected about what Irma or Matthew was. We're live in St. Augustine on the Bayfront. Jessica Clark, First Coast News. Back to you.
Jessica, thank you. So, Tim, we saw that water there topping the seawall. What are they seeing down there in St. John?
Okay, so it's going to be interesting to see, but remember, this is why we thought tonight would be the first and tomorrow morning the first critical high tide, and then we're expecting those high tides to be a little worse tomorrow afternoon, and then the worst high tides, that's when we expect water levels of about 4 feet. It'll vary in a few levels, but levels about 4 feet above on then the third high tide. That's early Friday morning. So as dramatic as that looks, and it's part of the storm that we have so far, actually I'm pleased that it's not worse. So we saw the water bank full, but not out of its banks on the intracoastal side in Duval County. In St. Johns County, St. Augustine, of course, is really the canary in the coal mine as far as where the winds are going to be highest, getting some gusts to 70. The water levels will be highest, and the rainfall totals will be highest as well.
Thank you, Tim. Well, we know businesses all up and down the First Coast are closing their doors as they brace for the storm.
But one restaurant in St. Augustine is making sure that everyone can get a meal at any time, no matter the conditions.
On your sides, Zach Wilcox has a look at what's on the hurricane menu at one Italian restaurant.
We've had, some threats where we thought maybe, but nothing really happened. But this one looks like it could actually be a threat.
The Underhills took over one of St. Augustine's landmark restaurants, Amici, back in March of 2020. Now, they drive up from Palm Coast for work every day, and with the storm coming, they say keeping an eye on the restaurant is a bigger priority than their home.
We're going to be here regardless because we're just watching the helm. So we figured if anybody needs any food, we're going to have to eat anyway. So we'll make food for ourselves and anybody else that's going to be around.
The Underhills are keeping the pizzeria part of the restaurant open all storm long for anyone looking for a hot meal. That includes first responders and power line workers who will be eating for free at Amici from the first gust to the last.
People that, have to be out and have to, rescue people. You want those people to be well fed and rested and comfortable.
The Underhills say they already made a giant to-go order for 27 hungry linemen. Now, of course, they'll take the business from the whole community, even if they just have a hurricane hankering for spaghetti.
And I had to get out. We were staying in. We know it's going to be worse maybe the next few days, so we had an opportunity to get out tonight. We found out Amici's was open, so we want to take advantage of it.
The Underhills are also taking care of their staff. They've turned the banquet hall into a makeshift shelter for employees riding out the storm.
If there's a family that has nowhere to go, we also have the banquet hall in the back. As long as we have power, we can keep everybody cool and comfortable.
They brought in coolers to salvage as much food as possible, and they'll keep cooking, power or no power.
We have lots of cooking devices, whether we have power or not.
In St. Augustine, Zach Wilcox, First Coast News, on your side.
Hold, what you got, hold? Some intense video right there. This is from the Nassau County Sheriff's Office Marine Unit. 2 people had to be rescued from their sailboat in the Fernandina Harbor. This was around 8:30 tonight. Good news, no one was hurt, but Marine units say this really is a good reminder not to be out on your boat in these dangerous conditions. Emergency officials ordered evacuations today for residents who live in zones A and D, D as in dog, in Nassau County. On your sides, Brianna Ray Turner is live in one of those zones where one woman says, Brianna, she's settling in even as Ian comes knocking, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm right here on Bonnie View Road, and as you can see, is a little bit of a drizzle, and winds are definitely picking up. And these neighbors lost power just a few hours ago. And I spoke to a neighbor, Nora Lee, who has lived here for 5 years. You can see she's been keeping track of each hurricane, and she says she's not going anywhere.
It's a price you pay to live in paradise.
That paradise surrounded by water.
Literally right that direction is the river, and just up the street here is a small inlet that comes in off the river, and when I was driving by, it was almost to the edge of the road then.
We first spoke to Nora Lee this afternoon, but just a few hours later,
we saw some bright flashes and heard pop, 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 and we walked out and saw the power line on fire.
A fallen tree temporarily knocked out power to the whole neighborhood. But Lee says it's going to take a lot more than that to make her leave.
It definitely is part of that island love. You're just afraid to leave your little space. We're all people. We literally have a group of us, and we all just put staying. And if anybody needs anything, they know that we can reach out to each other and help each other out no matter what.
Well, the power is back on for this neighborhood, and just like you saw the branch fall in the story, well, neighbors are also worried about trees just like this one, older trees all around the neighborhood. And they have worries, and this is something that they're keeping an eye on when Hurricane Ian passed. I'm live here in Nassau County. Brianna Ray Turner, First Coast News, on your side.
You've seen that plywood with all the names of the hurricanes. So let's check in now with Michaela with the latest on the forecast. Michaela, let's talk about Nassau, Glenn, and Camden County. What can folks there expect?
Hey, Heather. Yeah, here's what we're expecting for Glenn, Camden, and Nassau counties. Rainfall at anywhere between about 5 to 10 inches in accumulation. Water level rise, we're seeing 4 feet, and that's after the 3rd high tides. We've got one today, I believe one tomorrow, and then the next one after that. And that is the 3rd one is the one that we're watching for that 4-foot level of that water rising. Winds anywhere between 25 and 40 miles per hour, sustained winds, and then those isolated gusts could be anywhere from about 50 to 60 miles per hour. So not as much rain as what we're expecting in Duval County, but still some very gusty and dangerous winds for those 3 counties there.
Michaela, thank you. Let's take a look at this video. This is in Clay County on Doctors Lake, which is off the St. Johns River. Catherine Vaughan sent it to us. Her parents live on the lake. You can see the waves crashing on the dock and the power behind some of these waves from Ian, which was more than 200 miles away at the time. Now let's head to Clay County, where On Your Side's Andy Judson is joining us tonight. Andy, what are you seeing at this hour?
Yeah, we're at the Doctors Lake Marina in Clay County, and we've been in Clay County all day, and we've been speaking with residents, and they've expressed a lot of concern about flooding, and you can see why. Take a look at this. This is St. Johns River, and you can see the water is just coming up. Just in the last, hour that we've been out here, we've just really felt the wind pick up. We felt the rain coming in, and you can see the water. So we're telling you, if you live on St. Johns River or around this area, you should be concerned about some flooding coming in. A lot of folks told us that they're getting prepared for, Hurricane Irma. That's what they really remembered out here. And that's, they're just worried about kind of that flooding coming in. So we're out here, we're prepared in Clay County. I'm Andy Judson, First Coast News.
Now with a look at the impacts in Clay County.
All right, and we're going to include Putnam County as well, because the main concern in Clay and Putnam County being how much does the St. Johns rise. Remember, the St. Johns connected to the ocean. You saw really a good example of the ocean pouring into the estuaries from where Jessica was there in St. Augustine, and eventually that water is going to get down into and along the St. Johns River for Clay and Putnam County. But then, of course, in Clay County, there's also the South and the North Fork of the Black Creek. So what about it? Rainfall 6 to 14 inches. We're beginning to show signs and getting increasing confidence that drier air is being drawn into the current hurricane. We'll talk more about that in a bit, but it's one of the reasons why now, at least for Black Creek, still forecasting a major flood, but during the evening hours, the forecast is now dropped a foot. The South Fork forecast is now for 19 feet versus 20. The North Fork from 19 down to 18. Might not sound like much, but it could be a positive trend.
And we're not the only ones impacted by this storm.
Yeah, our hearts go out to all the folks in the path of Ian in South Florida who were hit so hard. It made landfall today, this afternoon, as a Category 4 storm, a massive storm. Look at this video. This is from Naples earlier today. That's a floating refrigerator just going down the street right there. This was the scene around 3 o'clock this afternoon. Cars swept away in this Naples neighborhood. People in this community later came out on paddle boards as the wind and the rain started to calm down. And earlier today in Punta Gorda, out on the west coast of Florida, winds clocked in at 100 miles an hour as the eye made its way through that area. Some neighbors leaving their homes, trying to find security in a parking garage nearby.
We have 2 feet of water.
And if it's a 16 or 17 foot,
then we'd be very happy to be here.
In Charlotte Harbor, the water was completely sucked out. Cruiser boats, you see right there, stuck in the mud just hours before the storm surge moved back in.
And we're going to continue to keep an eye on the storm through the overnight hours on our website and also in the First Coast News app.
That's right, and Tim and Michaela both will be back with another look on Hurricane Ian's forecast coming up in just a few minutes. We want to take you back out to St. Augustine. On your side, Zach Wilcox is live there tonight.
And Zach, what are you seeing right now where you are?
Yeah, hey there, Anthony. We are watching that water come crushing over the storm wall, really just pouring over there. And one thing we're watching here is if there's going to be any debris that comes along with that water. We were looking over when it was the earlier high tide around noon. We saw a lot of reeds coming over the storm wall, but now it's, now that we have more water coming, it subsided quite a bit, a few feet. Now it's coming back over. Something to keep an eye on here. We have seen that the bridge has stayed open, at least to this point. Within the past few minutes, we've seen cars going by. The emergency management told us it's going to be up to 45 miles an hour sustained winds. Once they get past that point is when they will consider closing the bridge down. So we're going to keep an eye on that here as well as that water continues to climb. I was just down there. It's at least ankle high right where we're at. And as that water climbs, we've seen a lot of folks move to the parking garage. That is packed full. So everyone's taking account for this storm and making sure that they are safe, it certainly seems like. In St. Augustine, Zach Wilcox, First Coast News, on your side.